What colorful hair is to Dragon Ball, pretty eyes are to Naruto. Sometimes an aesthetic change mixed with some form of power-up is enough to really set people's souls ablaze with creativity. The Sharingan, the Byakugan, the Rinnegan, all of these are what happens when you let creativity flow through you. When you take a cool technique and give it a physical makeover. That's why transformations are always so fire in anime. Any series worth its weight in action has at least one transformation that the heroes take on. Well, for Naruto, it tends to be that what people fall in love with the most would be Dojutsu. That becomes evident when we consider just how many there are. Would be a shame if someone just grouped them all together and put them in a single character, am I right? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Naruto stood by a mirror. As he did so, he looked into it upon himself. His eyes were strange. They always had been. Every time he blinked, it seemed like a new eye replaced the old. Sometimes the eyes matched up, sometimes they didn't. Control was hard. If he focused hard enough and tried not to blink, he could maintain a specific dojutsu for some time. But the moment his lids closed, a new one arrived in its place. That was frustrating because he never had the ability to choose what his dojutsu would be. Simply that he had them. Currently, he was trying to find one. You see, Hiruzen had just left the building. He had come to bring Naruto his monthly allowance, and while he was here, he seemed so tired, so out of it. Naruto's mood wasn't the best either. Everything just seemed so sepia. No, not actually sepia. The world still had its color. This much Naruto knew because every time he blinked, there was a chance he could awaken the Byakugan, which itself would give him the best vision in existence. But what Naruto meant by sepia was the emotional aspect of this that made the world feel less bright. Everything seemed paler by comparison, including Hiruzen's face. "Who were my parents? Please, tell me," Naruto asked. Hiruzen, obviously not in the mood to deal with this, simply turned around and began to head for the door. "What good will it do? It won't bring back the dead." How foolish. How utterly ignorant. Talking to Naruto as if he didn't know that. Naruto lived with that reality every day. He knew they were gone and that they weren't coming back. But Hiruzen didn't know the pain, the utter torture of trying to get to sleep at night without knowing where you come from. Without knowing what his parents were like. Maybe they were good people. Maybe they were bad. Both options were possibilities, but regardless of that, regardless of whether it brought them back or not, Naruto needed that closure. He needed to know who he was, where he came from, maybe get some inkling of an idea as to why the world treated him like it did. He kept blinking, his eyes changing like a slot machine. "Come on, Black Moon, Black Moon!" Blinking his eyes, one became a Sharingan and the other a Senrigan. "Got it," Naruto said. Naruto had little experience with these dojutsu. He knew he had them, but the task of testing them seemed too daunting, so in most cases he avoided doing much. The only one that he couldn't avoid using was the Byakugan, which gave him a fisheye view. Considering that Naruto was prone to nausea while dizzy, every blink was a chance to get thrown into the blender. Thankfully, it seemed that the Byakugan was becoming rarer and rarer in the slot machine that was his eyes. But despite his hesitation to mess with his dojutsu, it didn't mean he didn't understand what some of them did. Once he had blinked and the Senrigan had showed up. Due to his curiosity as to what Hiruzen was doing, Naruto realized that he could see these things from anywhere in the past to the present, so long as it didn't extend past the moments of his existence. Now though, he had what he sought for, the Senrigan. Now was his chance. "Don't blink, don't blink!" He began to gaze back in time. Certainly he'd be able to see who his parents were and what happened. Rewinding time, he didn't see his parents in his life, even back when he was a baby. His eyes were watering. "Please, no, I can't blink!" He went as far back as he could. He saw two figures. These must be his parents. One of them had the same hair color as him. He saw a smile, but suddenly he blinked. No! His eyes were now Kokugan and Katsuryugan. Dang it! He calmed himself down. "I can do this," he said to himself as he took a deep breath. He kept blinking until he got back to the Senrigan. He resumed his viewing. He saw them. A blonde-haired man and a red-haired woman. He'd never seen the woman before in his life, but why was the blonde-haired man so familiar? He saw them hugging a baby. "Wait, is that me?" he asked. It was becoming very hard to blink now. His eyes were starting to water again, but this time for different reasons. Mere moments later, though, there was a commotion. Naruto tried to view what was happening, but as he did, he saw a man in a mask rush to grab him. In terror, Naruto blinked and fell back. His heart racing, body trembling, he fell to the ground. As he laid there, he tried to understand what he had just witnessed. "Was I attacked the day I was born?" he asked. He stood up and began blinking again to try and get back to the Sharingan. As he finally reached it, he tried to peer back once again, but all he saw was a massive monster roaring so loud that it threatened his eardrums. Naruto, startled, pulled away from the memory. His face was pale. What the hell, he wondered, tears in his eyes. What did I live through? He did not try to look back again. He had no idea what was there. All he saw was an orange demonic face in the form of a fox. Was it all during the Ninetales assault? Was I born during that time, he questioned? He knew it had happened, but he didn't know he'd been there for it, or so close to the thing for that matter. As Naruto pulled back from the bathroom, he returned to his bed. He sat down on it and looked out the window at the village. Old scars on the village had long since healed, as construction had finished repairing the damage dealt a long time ago. But now Naruto wondered what he had to do with the Ninetales attack. Why was he so close to it? Why was it trying to eat him? Who was that masked man who tried to kidnap him? As the days passed, he would eventually head to the academy to continue his studies. As he did so, he would often be made fun of by the other kids who didn't understand his strange condition. Every time he blinked, his eyes changed, so they tended to call him 26 eyes because each eye could take one of 13 variations with every blink. Some called him Pachinko and would cast bets on which eye would turn up next. To be made fun of and turned into a game without consent was degrading. As he walked through the school, though, down the troubled hallways filled with kids who didn't seem to take him seriously, he unluckily blinked and got sudden double Byakugan. The sudden expansion of vision giving him full fisheye lens overloaded his senses and gave him vertigo. He stumbled and fell into one of the lockers, right beside Sasuke of all people. Sasuke looked down at him with an uncaring look. That being said, he never seemed to have much of a caring look toward anyone. As Naruto rose to his feet, the other kids were pointing and laughing at him. His eyes met Sasuke's for but a moment. A Sharingan and a Kokugan. Sasuke was shocked to see the Sharingan, which then disappeared in a blink. The laughter seemed to drive Naruto away as he hurried up to class. Sasuke, closing his locker, followed Naruto's movements. Sasuke wasn't normally interested in anyone else. However, he was curious how his own Dojutsu was in Naruto. Naruto was neither a Hyuga nor an Uchiha, yet he had the Dojutsu of both. As class began, Sasuke watched Naruto from a distance. Considering how many Dojutsu he seemed to always be displaying through every blink, how did he even see? It seemed that most of the Dojutsu didn't really affect his vision that badly, save for the Byakugan. After school, Sasuke followed Naruto out. He would approach him to speak with him. He would point to his eyes. "What's up with your eyes?" Naruto scoffed. "You here to make fun too?" Sasuke shook his head. "I saw the Sharingan in your eyes today, and it made me curious. Why do you have so many Dojutsu? Perhaps a better question is, how do you have so many Dojutsu?" Naruto shrugged. "I don't know. Nobody ever told me." "Were your parents Uchiha?" Naruto shook his head. "Fuma? Hyuga? Chinoike?" Naruto shook his head. "I don't know much about them, just that one was an Uzumaki. I can tell because she had really red hair." Sasuke watched Naruto's eyes. As he blinked, a Sharingan appeared in it before quickly being replaced by a Senrigan. "Can you not turn off your Dojutsu? Do they always cycle like that?" Naruto nodded. "They cycle like this all the time. Every time I blink, something comes up at random. I don't know how to fix it." "Well, the good news for you is that I have a Sharingan, so maybe I can teach you something." "Really?" Naruto asked with a sense of skeptical excitement. Sasuke nodded. "I don't really know if I can help you with any of your other Dojutsu, but maybe I can teach you to control your Sharingan. If I do that, maybe I can help you learn to turn the others off. Or at least keep the Sharingan on at all times so you don't have to risk a bad roll on Byakugan." "How do I do it?" Naruto asked. Sasuke waved him into formation, telling him to follow him. He led Naruto to a location where they could be open to test things but still have privacy. Sasuke turned around. "All right, let me show you." Sasuke closed his eyes to focus for a moment. He then opened them quickly and shouted the name of the Dojutsu. "Sharingan!" Sasuke's Sharingan awakened, displaying one Tomoe in each eye. They were relatively fresh Sharingan, but they were still active. He then looked at Naruto, who was focusing on them. "Wow, that seems simple." "It seems simple," Sasuke said, "but there is some trick to it." Naruto then tried. He closed his eyes and shouted, "Sharingan!" He opened his eyes and got double Ketsuryugan. "Did I do it?" he asked. Sasuke shook his head and pinched his tear ducts to preemptively alleviate the headache he knew he was going to get. No, there's a little more than just shouting the name. It all has to do with chakra flow. The Sharingan has different variations, and depending upon which one you call upon depends on how you use your chakra, how much you add, and the intent behind it. It takes focus. Sasuke looked at Naruto. Think about it like this. Imagine having a tail. You don't, but imagine it anyway. Now, try to move it. "I can imagine that," Naruto said. "Don't just imagine it. Attempt to feel it. Think about what it feels like attached to your rear right now. Now try to move it." "Oh, that's actually kinda tough," Naruto said. Sasuke nodded. "It's like that. Your eye possesses a lot of dojutsu. I think the reason why you cycle through them is because they're not entirely natural to you. I know that implants can't switch off. Maybe yours are the same way. But because the eyes have so many variations, they don't know which to settle on. So just imagine yourself in control of your eye. Feel the differences between the dojutsu. Will one of them to come out. Flow chakra to that area and then shout the dojutsu's name. That should help you make imagination into reality." Naruto closed his eyes and began to count the 13 variations of what he had. There was only one he wanted right now. He knew what it was. He had once witnessed in the mirror pulling a double Sharingan. He tried to remember what that felt like. Once he had a general idea, he tried to manipulate it, becoming conscious of the inside of his eye. He flowed chakra into his eyes powerfully to try to force out the preferred dojutsu. As he strained, he then spoke, "Sharingan!" Opening his eyes, one of them was a Sharingan while the other had become a Byakugan. Naruto blinked, causing his Byakugan to change, but his Sharingan remained the same. "Well, you're halfway there," Sasuke said, "but you gotta get both eyes." Naruto tried again. "Sharingan!" Now both were Sharingan, and every time Naruto blinked, they stayed that way. "There, now you've done it." Naruto was surprised. "Does this work with other dojutsu?" Sasuke shrugged. "All I have is the Sharingan. I can't tell you what does or doesn't work under the dojutsu. You could try. I don't see why it wouldn't work." Naruto closed his eyes. He went through the motions again, but this time he tried it with the other dojutsu. Once he settled on one to try out, he began to push like before. "Byakugan!" Suddenly, when he opened his eyes, both were Byakugan. "Wow, it works!" Naruto began leaning in different directions. He began to fall over, only to be caught by Sasuke. The two chuckled a little. Naruto began cycling through his dojutsu, but this time he was in control. "Can you turn them off?" Sasuke asked. Naruto attempted to try, but it didn't seem as if he could. He strained, but nothing happened. "Maybe it's because I don't recall a time where they ever weren't dojutsu." "Maybe," Sasuke said. "Well, I guess that's okay for now. Find the one that's easiest to live in and requires the least amount of chakra." Naruto settled on the Sharingan for now. As Sasuke stood there, he began to wonder, "What all kind of dojutsu do you have?" Naruto thought about it. "I've got a lot. I don't know the name of them all, so calling them out by their name might be an issue. I can try to show you." Sasuke nodded in approval. Naruto then began to cycle through as many dojutsu, showing them all off. By the end of it, he began to show off the Sharingan, the Mangekyo Sharingan, the Rinnegan, and the Rinne Sharingan. He tended to group those together since they looked so similar. Sasuke was startled by the appearance of the Mangekyo Sharingan, as they looked exactly like the ones that Itachi had. They had the same shape, and Sasuke could only assume the same abilities. That was frightening. Those are familiar, yes. I came to realize a lot about my dojutsu. What I learned was that it's a part of a family tree. There's the Sharingan that we have, then the three-pointed dojutsu that doesn't really resemble a Sharingan. That's your Mangekyo. It's like a Sharingan, but it comes with more abilities. Then there's the gray-colored eye with rings. That's the Rinnegan from what I've read. The red one that looks like a Rinnegan, I don't really know much. I would say that it's just another variation of the Rinnegan, but I don't know. Due to the fact that it's treated like a different dojutsu entirely, I guess we'll treat it as such. It seems to mirror the Rinnegan and the Sharingan together, so we could call it the Rinne Sharingan for now, if that's okay. Naruto nodded. "It's better than nothing." Sasuke was a bit jealous of Naruto that he could awaken dojutsu that the Uchiha clan hadn't been able to awaken in years, but instead of dwelling upon it, Sasuke had an idea. "Why don't you come with me? There's something I want to show you." Sasuke began to run off. As he did, Naruto followed closely behind. They would pass through the old abandoned Uchiha clan compound. Naruto would look around after spotting the crest. "Isn't this the place where you used to live?" Sasuke nodded. This was my home for 7 years of my life, but then it was all destroyed. I'm sorry, Naruto said. Sasuke kept moving, not wishing to dwell on the past further. It was hard enough being here. He didn't want to think too deeply on it. As they raced through the streets, they got to the edge of the compound and began to go along the bank of the Naka River. They continued their journey. Reaching the end point, that being their destination, they found the Naka Shrine. It had once been a safe place for the Uchiha to hide, and had once served as the place that they would plan their uprising. Once inside, Sasuke took Naruto deeper. There they found the stone tablet. This tablet was said to have been written by the Sage of Six Paths, the ancestor of the Uchiha. With my Sharingan, I can make out a little bit of the text, at least a little more than I can without any Dojutsu at all. It makes me wonder if higher versions of the Dojutsu can read more of it. Do you think you could give it a try? Naruto nodded. He activated his Sharingan, then his Mangekyo Sharingan, then his Rinnegan, then his Rinne Sharingan. He went over the whole thing and began to speak. Seeking stability, one god was divided into yin and yang. These opposing two acting together to obtain all things in creation, Naruto said. What does that mean? Sasuke asked. Naruto shook his head, unable to understand it himself. They continued to read over the stone tablet, learning about the Ten Tails, about Hagoromo's part in the defeat of some celestial being known as Kaguya, the Rinnegan, how it's made, various other things including the infinite Tsukiyomi, and how it would save the Uchiha clan. When someone who possesses the power of samsara approaches the moon, an eye will open that's reflected on the moon to grant the eternal dream. That means you, doesn't it? Sasuke asked. Naruto shrugged. I don't know. Well, your dojutsu is called the Rinnegan, and Rinne can mean samsara. Does that mean that I can cast the eternal moon dream? Naruto questioned. Sasuke shrugged. I will say this, your Mangekyo Sharingan looks a lot like my brother's, and my brother had a technique called Tsukiyomi, which seems a lot like this infinite Tsukiyomi. Perhaps the two are connected? Naruto didn't know. Well, I mean, what would I even do with a technique like that? Naruto asked. The tablet says it could save the Uchiha clan, but the issue with that is that your clan is already gone. I can't protect something that doesn't exist. No offense. Sasuke raised a hand, waving off the remark so as to say that it was okay. I'm not gonna ask you to do any of this stuff, Sasuke said. It's just that this tablet is a piece of history for my clan, and I feel like it's important for me to know about it. And since you have that dojutsu, maybe it's important for you to know as well. Naruto began to think, but what about my other dojutsu? I don't just have Sharingan, I've got a bunch of different ones that I don't understand. Maybe we can talk to the Hyuga about it. If my father were still around, I'd bet he'd know a lot about it, but given that he's not, the next best thing is to ask the Hyuga clan elder. We? Naruto asked. Sasuke stopped for a moment. Well, I mean, I don't have to go if you don't want me to. Naruto shook his head and hugged Sasuke. No, I want you to go too. Sasuke looked at Naruto out of the corner of his eye. If that's what you want, then it is what I want, Naruto said. Sasuke then spoke. Then I suppose we ought to get home. We need to rest. Naruto agreed. He would then walk out of the shrine and head back toward the compound with Sasuke. After passing by it back into Konoha proper, the two split up and headed home. As soon as Naruto got home, he freshened up, got something to eat, and spent the rest of the day contemplating what he would say in the morning. After that, he went to bed. When he wakes up the next day, he proceeds to meet with Sasuke, and they both head out to meet with Hiyashi, the clan head. Entering the Hyuga clan compound, they speak with one of the Hyuga about meeting with Hiyashi, but they're informed that he's very busy at the moment and will need to wait. In disappointment, they wait outside for their turn. As they do, they notice something. Someone is watching them. Hey, who's that? Naruto asked. He points his figure in the spy's direction. The moment he does, she hides. They walk off to investigate. The girl, flustered at the fact that she's been discovered, panics and begins to flee. As she does so, she turns around a corner too quickly and falls back on her rear. She looks up in horror to see Neji standing over her, his standard judgmental scowl still remaining upon his face. Lady Hinata, what's the meaning of this? Naruto and Sasuke catch up. Oh, it's that Hinata girl. What business do you have with Lady Hinata? Neji asks. Sasuke shrugs. We were gonna ask her the same thing. We wanted to know why she was spying on us. She stands up and begins to dust herself off. She keeps her face turned from them as she speaks. I was curious what two classmates of mine were doing here. Sasuke and Naruto looked at each other before looking back. Why didn't you just ask us? Naruto asked. Hinata shrugged. Why did you need to run from us? Sasuke asked. Neji looked to Hinata, and despite their differences, his heart was moved toward compassion. That's enough questions. Lady Hinata is easily frightened. That should suffice as an answer. Oh, she's just shy, Naruto said. Well, that's different. Why couldn't she just tell us she was shy? Sasuke looked at Naruto in confusion. How could she tell us she was shy if she was too shy to talk? Naruto giggled. Oh yeah, I forgot. It wasn't much long after this that Naruto and Sasuke were called to Hiyashi's office. As they approached it, they were welcomed in by the clan head. They offered him a bow and he offered them a seat. Naruto took the seat to the left and Sasuke went to the right. So, what can I do for you two? Hiyashi asked. We were wanting to know if you could help us identify some of the dojutsu I possess. Hiyashi nodded. Yes, I heard there had been a child born with some mixture of dojutsu. Feel free to display them and I'll see if I can identify them. Naruto started with a Byakugan. I've got this one, which I'm sure you recognize. He then started to show other versions, the Jogan and the Tensaigan. Do you know these? Hiyashi looked at them. The one with the flower shape I believe I'm familiar with. There are legends passed down within the Hyuga clan. Supposedly it was the eye of Hamada Otsutsuki, the brother of Hagoromo. Hamada, being our ancestor, is the father of our Byakugan, just as Hagoromo is the father of the Uchiha's Sharingan. It was said that Hamada possessed a dojutsu so powerful that even the Byakugan seemed to pale in comparison. It was said to take the form of a lotus or a type of flower. We had never seen it with our own eyes, so it's amazing that you should have it. We don't know the other dojutsu though. It appears to be like a Byakugan, but I've never seen it before. I'm sorry, I can't help with it. Naruto understood. He transformed his eyes again. What about this one? It appeared to be a type of Byakugan, but slightly different. Hiyashi looked closely. You know, we actually have seen something similar to this. It's a recent story actually, so it's funny it should appear now. In the Land of Water, there was a boy who ran with one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. His name was Renmaru. He had an eye similar to this. Its functions were very similar to the Byakugan, but in some ways it excelled. It also had other abilities that could cast genjutsu and seemed somewhat resistant to them. In that way, it wasn't too unlike a Sharingan. Neji came to call it the Byaku Sharingan for fun, but in the end we never really discovered its true name, so we simply filed it away as Renmaru's dojutsu. Naruto understood. And what about this one? He displayed the Ketsuryugan. That one is the dojutsu of the Chinoike clan. It's the Ketsuryugan. What it can do, I'm not quite sure, but they said that it has some ability to cast genjutsu via one's blood, or manipulate one's blood. Not much is known. The clan it is affiliated with kept it a tight secret. Naruto displayed a purple dojutsu that looked somewhat like a kaleidoscope. That one we do know about, Hiyashi said. However, it's still a bit of a mystery. It's said that the priestesses of the Land of Ogres have it, but no real information on it exists other than sometimes, randomly, it can offer glimpses of the future. Therefore, we've taken to calling it the Rinnegan. That being said, its most currently reported usage is by the current priestess there, Shion. So we've also just officially called it Shion's dojutsu. And this one, Naruto said, displaying the Senrigan? Hiyashi shook his head. No clue. Completely new to me. What does it do? Naruto began to explain how with this particular dojutsu he could see anything happening in the present, as well as anything that happened in the past after the moment of his birth. Hiyashi thought about it. That almost sounds like clairvoyance. I don't know what the original name of the dojutsu is, but for now we can call it Senrigan for clairvoyance. Naruto continued showing off other dojutsu for Hiyashi. He was determined to go through all of his known ones. There was one dojutsu where his pupils dilated. That one we've heard of before. A girl named Yome is reported to have it. She's a Sunanin. We're not entirely certain if it actually is a dojutsu in the same sense as the others, given that all it really does is cause the pupil to dilate, which any shinobi could theoretically train their eye to do. But considering that it's displayed as its own dojutsu here, maybe we need to change that. Are there any others? Hiyashi asked. Naruto nodded. I have one more. Naruto displayed a black eye with a few spokes in it. Hiyashi looked forward. It looks like a pizza, he said as he looked into it, though I doubt Pizzagon would be good enough for it. What does it do? Naruto shrugs. I haven't tested it. I only recently learned how to control my dojutsu. Before, they would just switch every time I blinked. Hiyashi sat back down. Well, it's a black eye, so for simplicity's sake, let's just call it the black eye, or the Kokugan. How does that sound? Naruto smiled. Sounds pretty good to me. I like it. Hiyashi nods. Of course, it sorta looks like the Wheel of Dharma, so honestly, it would have been better named the Hogan. But I guess Kishimoto's word is law. Hiyashi then continued. Honestly, it's kind of amazing you have so many. It's slightly dangerous too. I'd suggest getting a curse mark similar to what Neji has, one that at least keeps others from taking your eyes. After all, they seem special, and I'll tell you, for an eye with this many abilities, it's going to be sought by everyone and their mother. At least with the curse mark, you can deter attempts at taking them. Naruto looked over at Sasuke, who shook his head no. I think I'll pass for now. Hiyashi stood. Well, you can always opt in later. That being said, Naruto, you really should train with them, experiment with them, and see what they can all do. This could make you the greatest shinobi to ever live if you do so carefully. Hiyashi began to lead Naruto and Sasuke out of his office. Are there any other questions you boys have? Naruto and Sasuke shook their heads. Can't think of any, Naruto said. Well, feel free to come back around if you get any. Hiyashi escorts them out and then closes the door behind them. He stood there for a moment and thought. How did the son of Minato and Kushina, two people with no dojutsu, produce a child with every dojutsu? Something just doesn't make sense. Outside, Neji and Hinata were waiting. So, is it true that you have Byakugan? Neji asked Naruto flatly. Yeah, Naruto said. Show them to me, Neji demanded. Naruto would close his eyes and concentrate before opening them again to show his Byakugan. Neji looked at them. Do you know how to use them? Naruto shook his head. No, they make me feel dizzy. You should train them, Hinata said, gathering a little courage to speak from her hiding spot behind Neji. Train them? How would I do that? With someone who knows how to use them, Neji said. I would be willing to teach you. Maybe it'll increase Lady Hinata's interest in learning. Would you like to consider it? Neji asked. Naruto looked at Sasuke. I was planning to train my Sharingan first with Sasuke. Why not train both at the same time? Neji asked. Can I do that? Naruto asked. Yes, if you have the discipline for it. Naruto began to think about it. Well, if you ever decide to take me up on my offer, you know where to find me. Neji began to walk off. Hinata waved to him. Bye, Naruto. As they walked away, Naruto smiled. He thought about all the dojutsu he was beginning to learn how to control. The ones you showed Hiyashi are nothing compared to the ones you showed me, Sasuke said. I know what the Mangekyo can do. Mastering that, along with the variations of the Rinnegan, will offer you powers unlike any you've ever seen before. Mastering those, as well as these, I just don't think anyone will be able to beat you. But then again, I haven't set my mind on it yet. Just be ready, Naruto. I plan to show you why my Sharingan and skill will still be enough to beat you. The office of the Hokage was finally empty, save for Hiruzen himself. He was sitting in his chair, looking out over the village, finally pleased to be at peace. So many people had been visiting him that he thought the day might never end. Today was quite busy, and he was about to get his well-earned rest. That was until his secretary rang him and told him that he actually had one more appointment. Damn it, Hiruzen muttered as he realized that his workday was not yet over. Send them in, he said as he turned around to the desk. He summoned every bit of strength he had just to sit forward toward the table. He put on his best smile so he could seem strong. That was until Hiyashi Hyuga walked in. Oh, it's just you, Hiruzen said as he sat back with a sigh. I don't have to impress you. What do you want? Hiyashi spoke. I was going to ask about. Are you okay? Hiruzen was melting out of his chair. How important is this? He asked. What do you mean? Hiyashi asked. Is this life or death? Secret? Or is this something we can talk about over a meal at a restaurant or something? I'm ready to clock out. Hiyashi took a deep breath and let out a sigh that turned into a chuckle. You really turn into a different man when you're tired. I'm just so done with the world, Hiyashi. The old man stood and dropped his hat off on the desk before grabbing his jacket. The two men began to make their way out into the nearest restaurant. Hiruzen didn't care what it was, he just wanted to eat and go home. As they sat there getting some barbecued meat, Hiyashi spoke. I wanted to ask about Naruto. What about him? Hiruzen asked. I wanted to know what's going on with his eyes, Hiyashi said. Hiruzen thought about it. What about his eyes? Do you know why they do what they do? Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen thought about it. We really can't be certain, he said. There are theories floating around, but in the end, the jury's still out. Some people believe that he might have been experimented on when he was young. I don't know about that, but it is a theory. You know that Naruto can see everything back to the moment of his birth, right? Hiyashi said. Hiruzen stopped eating for a moment. He then continued. Aren't you concerned about what he'll see? You mean the Nine Tails? Hiruzen asked. Hiyashi nodded. He doesn't know he's the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, does he? Hiruzen looked up. He shouldn't. Hiyashi sat there for a moment before speaking. He will learn. Aren't you afraid that the Nine Tails will get out? Hiruzen shook his head. Why not? Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen took a deep breath and let it out in a sigh. He looked left and right to see if anybody were nearby to hear. Because he doesn't possess the Nine Tails. Hiyashi was shocked. What? He doesn't, Hiruzen said. Minato sealed the full Nine Tails into himself when he used the Reaper Death Seal. Then why did you tell everyone that he had it in him and not to tell anyone else? Hiyashi asked. For the same reason I'm going to tell you to keep a lid on this too. Listen, we lost the Nine Tails that night. That was our greatest deterrent and we're still not sure how to get it back. No more Uzumaki yet lived to tell us how to undo the Reaper Death Seal. We had to lie and say that it was inside of Naruto to keep the other nations from suspecting. Hiyashi thought about it. Then why did you tell us not to tell? Because I knew, Hiruzen said, that the number one thing that happens when you tell someone to keep a secret is that it spreads. And I was right. Spies in-house have leaked that information, and because of that, we've had peace for these past 12 years. If the other nations ever learnt of the truth, we'd be flooded immediately by our worst enemies. Until we can figure out what to do, we're keeping it quiet. So then why are you keeping Naruto under such strict supervision? Hiyashi asked. Are you afraid someone will attack him for his eyes? That's only half the reason, Hiruzen said. The other half is that when we finally do get the Nine Tails released from the seal it was put under, it will regenerate. And when it regenerates, we'll need someone who can use various dojutsu to defeat it and seal it away. Hiruzen was still processing everything. Why are you telling me this now, Hiruzen? Why are you revealing this big secret to me? Can't you guess? Hiruzen asked. I'm telling you because you're the head of the only clan that specializes in dojutsu. This job was originally going to pass to Fugaku Uchiha, but when the uprising occurred and then the Uchiha massacre, that kind of got flushed. Honestly, I was planning to reveal this to you when Naruto finally graduated from the academy, but it seems that Naruto's taking interest in his dojutsu by himself. So I need you to help guide him along. Some forewarning would have been nice, Hiyashi said. Hiruzen smiled. In this business, there's a rule. Only share what is necessary. Once information is out in the world, anyone can get a hold of it by any means. The less people who have the full picture, the less likely the information will leak. You are one of only 5 people who know this secret, Hiyashi. I expect you to guard it with your life. Hiyashi nodded. Of course. Hiruzen stood. All right, I'm out of here. Will you please cover for me? Thanks. Hiruzen was gone before Hiyashi could say anything else. I'm glad I decided against leaving my wallet at home. The day after, Naruto was up bright and early and went to the Hyuga compound where he was planned to meet with his friends turned masters, Sasuke and Neji. They stood outside the compound waiting for him. Good morning, masters, he said with a slight bow. They didn't return it. Come on, let's get started, they said. As he stood there, they both spoke. Neji and I have been debating, Sasuke said as Naruto sat down in front of them. I think you should train with me first, but Neji is certain that you should train with him first. Since we can't reach a consensus, we decided to ask you. What do you want? Naruto looked at both Neji and Sasuke. Well, Naruto thought about it. You kind of put me on the spot here, Naruto said. Both of them seem very important to learn. Naruto then remembered. Wait, Neji, didn't you say I'd be learning both dojutsu at the same time? Neji rolled his eyes. I meant you'd be learning both dojutsu in relative time. You can't learn how to use Byakugan and Sharingan at the exact same time. And even if it were possible, I doubt you have the brain power to handle such a task. Hey, that's mean, Neji. Just for that, I'm starting with Sasuke's training. Then maybe you should start with training somewhere away from our compound, Neji said. Now hold on, Neji, came another voice. It was Hiyashi. Neji offered a bow. Lord Hiyashi, he said. Hiyashi put his hand on Neji's shoulder to set him at ease. Naruto is free to stay here for as long as he needs. We're going to be working on teaching him about all of his dojutsu together. I may not know much about all the other dojutsu, but I do understand how they work. That, mixed with Sasuke's help, leads me to believe that we can help Naruto to understand his own. Hiyashi led them inside the house where he prepared tea for the group. As they all drank, Hiyashi spoke with Naruto. Tell me, what do you know about dojutsu? Just that I have them, Naruto said. That and how to cycle through them at will, which is something I only learned a few days ago. Can you utilize their powers at will? Hiyashi asked. Only some of them. Hiyashi nodded. It shouldn't be hard to use them. I've come to realize something about dojutsu in my time studying them. Most of them are instinctual. Instinctual? Naruto asked. Hiyashi nodded. In most cases, you don't really need to be taught how to use these dojutsu. Many who awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan are already aware of techniques they possess and how to use them to a certain degree, and the same is true for most other dojutsu. The issue isn't in knowing how to use them, it's in how to use them adequately. That being said, it takes a long time to master anything, and I'm sure any teacher of the martial arts will tell you that. The Byakugan is not just used to see long distances, but also comes with the ability to see chakra points. When used in conjunction with certain types of taijutsu, it gives rise to the gentle fist, the pride and joy of our clan. The Uchiha tend to use their own dojutsu mostly for illusion and whatever other techniques their Mangekyo abilities awaken. The Mangekyo offers different abilities based on what it awakens. Generally, the only things Mangekyo Sharingan share in common is the manner with which they're awakened, the amount of abilities they're allowed to have, and the Susanoo. That being said, because the only people here capable of teaching you mastery of your dojutsu are the Hyuga and the Uchiha, I think it best for you to focus on learning what we have to teach you about our dojutsu. Particularly, I think you should begin with the Sharingan, as out of the two, it should be easier to utilize. Sasuke raised a finger. I wouldn't say it's easier. Hiyashi looked at him. Well, not exactly. But what I mean is that our gentle fist is a martial arts discipline that requires control over not only dojutsu, but your mind. He'll need to learn that eventually, but it'll be best to focus on the Sharingan for now anyway, as it is a little simpler and easier to grasp than the many thousands of styles of Tenketsu strikes you can learn. Sasuke had a hard time arguing against that. That didn't mean he still didn't feel slighted. It was as if Hiyashi were making it sound like his Byakugan was better than the Sharingan of the Uchiha. In truth, that's not what Hiyashi was doing at all. The Byakugan was not able to do certain things that the Sharingan could, and it was the Sharingan that he would need the most, especially for whenever they would try to get the Nine Tails free. Once they had all drank their tea, they would go outside to begin training. Tell me, Naruto, what can you do with your Sharingan? Can you awaken a Mangekyou? You seem to have higher forms of Byakugan. Do you have higher forms of Sharingan? Naruto nodded. He activated his Mangekyou abilities. What do you know about these abilities? Can you activate them at will? Naruto tried. Hiyashi just barely dodged out of the way as black flames ate up the tree that was sitting behind him. Stop the fire, Naruto! Naruto put out the flames with another glare. Hiyashi rose back to his feet with Neji's help. Hiyashi wanted to lash out at Naruto but managed to hold it back. Naruto, here's some advice. Don't ever activate Dojutsu abilities you don't know when looking at someone. You could have killed someone. Naruto lowered his head. I'm sorry, sir, Naruto said. Hiyashi's expression softened. It's okay. You're here to learn and you just learned something important. Please, do not forget it. This was when Sasuke chimed in. He just used a Materasu. That's the same ability my brother has. That, mixed with the shape of the Dojutsu, tells me he has the same Mangekyou Sharingan type as my brother. Chances are he has Tsukiyomi as well. It's best we don't test the other eye for now. He could try to summon the Susanoo. Hiyashi nods. That's a good idea. How do I do that? Naruto asked. Sasuke scratched his head. I'm not entirely sure, actually. Hiyashi then spoke up. I had a few Uchiha friends in the past with the ability, and I asked them about it. They said to simply activate the third ability. They said to do it, they would funnel chakra to their nose of all places and just project their body around them, he said. For them, that would result in, at least, the start of a Susanoo. A partial transformation. Try that. Naruto nodded. He closed his eyes and began to try. Ouch, Naruto said as he covered his eye. What's wrong, Hiyashi said. I accidentally set my eyelid on fire. He said to put the chakra into your nose, Naruto, not your eyes, Sasuke said. Naruto nodded and tried again. Suddenly, emerging from Naruto was an orange skeletal creature. Wow, Sasuke said. It looks just like my brother's. Or at least that's what I've heard. What you've heard, Neji asked. Yeah, I've never seen it before. I've seen one of his abilities and heard about the other two. Which one did you see, Neji asks. Sasuke looks down. The same one I see every night when I go to sleep. Hiyashi quickly diverts the topic, realizing what Sasuke's talking about. It's a very nice Susanoo, but it looks like it could use some more work. That's when Hiyashi realizes something. Naruto. Naruto releases his Susanoo. Yeah? Hiyashi looks at him for a moment and then speaks. How do your eyes feel when you're using that technique? Fine. Why? No burning at all? Hiyashi asks. Naruto shakes his head. What do you mean, Lord Hiyashi? Sasuke asks. Hiyashi looks to Sasuke while pointing at Naruto. Have you noticed anything? Sasuke looks closely. His eyes aren't bleeding. Naruto's eyes widen. Bleeding eyes? Who was talking about bleeding eyes? Was that supposed to happen? Yeah, normally when people use their Mangekyou Sharingan enough, they actually start going blind, Sasuke replied. Naruto flips out. What? Goes blind? Why didn't anyone tell me about that? Well, I mean, you don't go blind immediately, Hiyashi said. Only if you overuse it. Are there any other dojutsu that blind me? Naruto shouts, obviously a little upset about not being told about the possible outcome of his use of this dojutsu. I don't think so. The Mangekyou is special. I honestly don't know why yours don't seem to go blind, Hiyashi said. Not even a little blood. There's only been one time that this has ever happened. When's that? Sasuke asked. When the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan awakens. That shouldn't be possible for you though, as you have no siblings. Hiyashi thinks about it. But enough of that. Let's continue your training. For the rest of the day, they continued to train Naruto in the use of his dojutsu. Teaching him how to activate them was easy enough, but more complicated things like the Byakugan and the Gentle Fist's connection would take some time to learn. Naruto and Sasuke would begin to head home as the sun was setting. As they walked though, Naruto spoke. Why didn't my eyes bleed or start going blind when I used the Mangekyou Sharingan, he asked. Sasuke thought about it. Hiyashi said it was possibly because of the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan, but I don't know about that for certain. The eternal Mangekyou Sharingan is said to be a mixture of two different eyes. The only known usage of this technique was with Madara Uchiha, and when he unlocked his dojutsu gained a different look than he had previously. Your eyes look almost identical to my brother's, and he doesn't have an eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. I think the more likely answer has to do with the Rinnegan. The Sharingan said to be descended from it. That would mean that the Mangekyou is closer to the Rinnegan than the base Sharingan is. And if that's so, then the Rinnegan should go blind with use too, right? But it doesn't. Maybe if you awaken the Rinnegan, the Mangekyou Sharingan no longer suffers bleeding and vision loss? Sasuke posited in the form of a question. That's all I can think of. Returning to their homes, the two rested up for the next day. Naruto continued to train as they had done the day before, doing so more and more over the course of the next few months until Naruto had a bit of a grasp on the usage of his Dojutsu. It was at around this time that Hiruzen called Hiyashi back into the office. When Hiyashi got there, Hiruzen dropped some news on him. "We figured it out." "Figured what out?" Hiyashi asked. "How to unseal the Nine Tails. We found the proper mask and the way to do it." Hiyashi was surprised. "That's great news, but I don't think Naruto's ready. He's very young. Are you sure this is wise?" "That's why I brought you in here, Hiyashi. I would like to ask about Naruto's progress." "He's progressing along very well. He has mastery over most of the techniques of not only the Sharingan, but the Mangekyou Sharingan as well. So Genjutsu shouldn't be an issue for him." Hiruzen nodded. "Then stay here. I'm going to send for him. I think he'll appreciate it if you're here when I give him the news." Hiyashi would give a nod of approval, and so the two of them waited. Naruto would eventually be brought into the office. "What's wrong? Am I in trouble?" Hiruzen chuckled. "No, Naruto, you're not. I just wanted to talk with you." "About what?" Naruto asked. Hiruzen continued. "Hiyashi here has told me how well you're doing in your Dojutsu training." Naruto smiled. "Well, not to brag, but I am the best Mangekyou Sharingan user in the whole village." Hiyashi cracked a smile on that declaration, knowing Naruto was the only Mangekyou Sharingan user in the village currently. Hiruzen then began to explain. "I wanted to talk to you about something." "What is it?" Naruto asked. Hiruzen continued. "Surely you've seen your own memories, correct? You've looked all the way back to your birth?" "Nope, never done that." Hiruzen shook his head. "It's okay, Naruto. I'm not mad. I just need to know if you've done it so I don't have to explain what's coming up next." Naruto thought for a moment and then nodded. "I looked." "Then you remember the Nine Tails attack?" Naruto nodded. "I do." Hiruzen began to explain. 12 years ago, on the day you were born, the Nine Tails escaped from your mother, who was the Jinchuriki at that time. Your father battled against it, and in an effort to seal it away, sacrificed his own life. The Nine Tails has been sealed up ever since, and we've not known how to get it back. But recently, we figured out how to break that seal." Naruto was starting to get skeptical. Okay. Hiruzen then spoke. "We need that Nine Tails to keep Konoha safe, Naruto. We're going to unseal the beast, and when we do, we need you there to use your Mangekyou Sharingan to cast it under Genjutsu. Then the sealing team will seal it into you. You'll take your mother's place as the next Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails." Naruto's face was splashed with horror, terror dripping from every angle. I can't do that." "Why not?" Hiruzen asked. Naruto continued. "I saw that thing in my memories. It was terrifying. You not only want me to be there when it appears, but you want me to seal it into my body? I won't do it." Naruto stood up and looked like he might run. Hiyashi slowly started to approach him. "Naruto, just listen. Stay back," Naruto said as he activated his Mangekyou Sharingan. Hiyashi froze. "Naruto?" Naruto was terrified, looking like he might cry. Was this why you started training me, Hiyashi? Was it to do this? To make me do this?" Hiyashi looked away from him. Naruto's eyes widened. "It was, wasn't it?" Hiyashi spoke. "Naruto, you don't understand." Naruto shook his head. "I do understand. You were using me." Naruto then ran off from the room. Hiruzen sighed and picked up the phone. "I need to call in the Anbu." "Please wait, Lord Hiruzen," Hiyashi said. "Let me go get him." Hiruzen let out a sigh of frustration. "Please do so quickly. I don't want this getting out." Naruto was hiding in the forests nearby the village. He was hiding up in the leaves, trying to remain concealed. As he thought about it, he recalled the things he had seen with his Sharingan. He saw how it stabbed through both of his parents. He felt their blood dripping onto him. He saw their faces. Worse still, he saw that thing's face too. Twisted in rage, its eyes echoing desire to kill him. The concept of not only facing that thing, but sealing it inside of his body too. It was too much. And that's when he heard something. "Naruto," a voice called. Naruto looked down and saw Hiyashi. His Mangekyou Sharingan activated. "Naruto, don't be scared. I'm alone. I'm not here to fight or anything. I just want to talk. Can we please talk about things?" "What's there to talk about? You got any more lies you want to tell me?" Hiyashi stood there silently for a moment. "Naruto, you know me. We spent a lot of time together these past few months. Can I at least come up into the tree and talk about it?" Naruto placed his head back against the tree. "Fine." Hiyashi climbed up and sat on an adjacent branch beside Naruto. "How did you find me?" Naruto asked. "I followed the scent of ramen," Hiyashi said, expecting a laugh. But when nothing happened, he rephrased it. "The Byakugan is good for tracking." "You taught me all this stuff just to make me do this, didn't you?" Hiyashi nodded. I taught you under request of the Hokage, who said national security was at stake. I didn't want to lie to you. I wanted to be honest, but besides you, there are only 5 people who know that the Ninetales isn't in our village. Why is it so important? Naruto asked. Why is it bad if it's not in our village? That thing's terrifying. Hiyashi nodded. It is terrifying, which is exactly why we need it. The Ninetales isn't the only monster in this world. A lot of other monsters are held by a lot of other villages. The only reason they don't attack us is because they're scared of our monster. But if they realize we don't have it anymore, they'll send their monsters to hurt us. Have you ever noticed how if a bully picks on you, if you stand up to them, the bully will leave you alone? Naruto nodded. Hiyashi continued. That's because the bully only respects strength. If your strength is greater than theirs, then they get scared of you and leave you alone. Nations are like that too. The stronger a military force, the more likely you are to scare off your enemies. Naruto thought about it. Okay, but why does it need to be me? He asked. Why do you need me to do these things? Hiyashi then spoke. It's because you're special, Naruto. Nobody has eyes like yours. Not to mention, you're an Uzumaki. Very few of those exist in this world anymore. They were said to be the perfect Jinchuriki. There's nobody else like you in this world. Are you gonna force me to do this? Naruto asked. Are you gonna make me be a Jinchuriki to the thing that made me an orphan? Hiyashi thought about it and then sighed. No, I won't. Naruto looked over for a moment. Huh? Hiyashi spoke. I'll be the Jinchuriki if I have to, but I need you to do something still. What? Naruto asked. I need you to help us put it under with your genjutsu. You have Mangekyo Sharingan. Nobody else in the village has that, and with your particular version, you can put the thing under a powerful spell. We need you there or people could die. If you don't want to be the Jinchuriki, we won't force you to be, but we need you to face your fears for the sake of the lives of everyone else. Can you do that? Naruto thought about it and swallowed hard. He nodded. If I have to, I'll try. Hiyashi smiled. Thank you, Naruto. With the matter settled, Hiruzen accepted the terms. Honestly, he didn't care who the Jinchuriki was, he just needed one. And with Hiyashi volunteering, they decided not to fight him on it. They would all gather outside, though Naruto was kept further away than the others to ensure his safety when the seal broke. They would take a prison inmate who'd been sentenced to death, march them out onto the field where there were plenty to summon the Ninetales, and would have him wear a mask. Of course, this man was kept under genjutsu to make sure he did everything correct, as well as for some semblance of humanity. It would be better for the man not to know what he was doing. At least that way he wouldn't feel the pain. They had him weave the hand signs to summon the Shinigami. They would then have him cut open his own gut, which caused the Shinigami to do the same thing. As soon as the Shinigami cut open its own stomach, the chakra that had been within suddenly began to pour out. It began to form at first as a thundering tornado of flames that shot lightning from its core, along with crackles of thunder. There would be a roar from the midst of the tornado. Hiruzen, seeing it, would be on his comms. Get ready. When I give the order, get in there. Distract the beast and allow Naruto to get close. When Naruto's in position, have him cast Tsukiyomi. Once the beast is under genjutsu, get Hiyashi under the beast and begin the sealing ritual. Am I understood? The team leaders each systematically sounded off in approval. Just as the last one sounded off, the Ninetales finished manifesting. It let out a roar and then seemed to calm a bit as it took in the scenery and tried to understand what was happening to it. Go, now, Hiruzen commanded. Suddenly, by the beast's feet, explosions were heard. The beast fell forward as it looked around and noticed many shinobi. It swiped its claws at them, causing them to jump away to avoid. Naruto was terrified seeing this thing up close and personal. Having second thoughts, kid? Yamato said. He was the one in charge of Naruto's squad. Naruto nodded. Yamato put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Don't be afraid. I won't let anything happen to you. Yamato then knelt down. Now, get on my back. Naruto did as commanded. Yamato ensured his team was ready. Remember, in, draw attention, genjutsu, out. The other Anbu acknowledged this statement. It was then that Hiruzen gave the order. They began to move closer. With every tree they jumped to, Naruto felt as if he might puke. He remembered what Hiyashi had taught him. He focused his breathing. He then tried to focus on the task and not his own aches. As they got closer to the beast, Naruto stopped on the nearest tree branch. The beast wasn't looking at them yet. Are you ready, Naruto? Yamato asked. Naruto swallowed his fear and his own vomit and nodded. Yamato commanded them to begin drawing attention. They threw kunai with paper bombs and attacked at its back. The bombs exploded. The beast let out a roar and then turned around to face them. The moment Naruto's eyes met with its, he cast Tsukiyomi, and it worked. The Ninetales stumbled back, let out a howl, and then fell forward. Naruto was pulled out as Hiyashi and the sealing team drew closer. Naruto saw Hiyashi for only a moment. Hiyashi saw Naruto and smiled and gave a thumbs up. A few moments later, the beast was sealed again, this time into Hiyashi. The mission successfully completed, they returned to the village to celebrate. Hiyashi would meet with Naruto. Naruto would run to Hiyashi and hug him. He began to cry. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Hiyashi asked. Naruto spoke. "That should have been me. You don't deserve to be that thing's Jinchuriki." Hiyashi knelt down and hugged Naruto. "And neither do you. You did a good job out there today. You faced your fears. I couldn't be more proud of you." Word traveled fast. Knowledge about what transpired reached the four corners of the world. It even reached a very certain masked man. That man, unlike the rest of the world, was not concerned about the Nine Tails, but about the boy who had stopped it. A strange Uzumaki with the Mangekyo Sharingan. As the man looked over the scroll, he spoke. So, he survived. The masked man had been certain that the entirety of the Namikaze household had perished that day, but it seemed that the boy with the special eyes had survived. The man smiled. Good. Naruto was sitting outside in the Hyuga clan compound. Beside him was Hinata. What used to be awkward slowly grew into a close friendship. Neji wasn't far, but he was doing his own thing as he usually did. Hiyashi was currently getting a physical done as per the orders of Konoha. Definitely not in his prime anymore, he was still very strong. Due to these things, he seemed a bit iffy on whether he actually wanted to have a physical done in the first place, but considering how important it was, he decided to go through with it. Hiyashi, in most people's eyes, wasn't the best option for being a Jinchuriki, and honestly, the first few days after taking on the tailed beast led him to bouts of sudden nausea followed by vomiting or other forms of bowel distress. He was pretty much better now, but still, Hiruzen was being overly careful. He didn't want to risk Hiyashi or the Nine Tails, so this was a mandatory appointment. As Hiyashi cooperated, the doctor finished his examination. "It looks like your body's accepted the Nine Tails' power." "I thought so. But why was I getting sick so often those first few weeks?" Hiyashi asked. "That would be because your body was still adjusting to the increase of chakra, as well as trying to decide if it wanted to reject the foreign entity. But it seems as though you're perfectly healthy now." The doctor put his light back into his pocket. He scratched his white chin-strap beard and pushed his fingers through his hair, making sure everything was still in proper position. "The point of this today wasn't just to see if your body's accepted the Nine Tails, but also to see if you're fit enough to begin training to utilize it. Both of those are a resounding yes," the doctor said. Hiyashi stood. "Then I suppose it's been a pleasure, Dr. Sanzu," he said as he offered a hand. The white-haired man smiled as he peered through his orange-tinted glasses. "Please, Hiyashi, we've known each other long enough. Just call me Amato." Hiyashi smiled in return. "Of course." As they stepped out, Hiyashi continued to flatter the doctor, telling him how honored he was to be checked up on by the Hokage's personal physician. "Well, it is sort of my job. Not only am I assigned to the Hokage, but also to the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. So by that mandate, I am now officially your personal doctor for the rest of your life." "It's been a long time coming," Hiyashi said. "We've known each other for years. I'm glad to finally have a friend of mine as my doctor." As they walked outside, Amato couldn't help but look at Naruto as he sat there, oblivious as ever. Hiyashi was attempting to carry on a conversation with him, but he didn't seem to be paying attention. "What are you looking at?" Hiyashi asked. Amato tried to play it off, but Hiyashi got the idea. "Yeah, that's Naruto, son of the 4th Hokage and his wife. But I don't need to tell you that, do I? You were there when he was born. I delivered him personally. Then that man attacked." Hiyashi nodded as he listened to Amato speak. He then spoke himself. "It's a shame that you couldn't identify the man. You were the only survivor. And I've got the scar to prove it," Amato said. Amato seemed like he were trying to determine what he was going to say. Then he just came out and asked it. "Can I please run a quick examination on Naruto?" he asked. "I'd like to see how he's doing." "You wish to run an examination on Naruto?" Hiyashi asked. Amato smiled. "For old time's sake. It'll take me back to my younger years, working under Lord Fourth." Hiyashi chuckled. "Feel free then." Hiyashi called Naruto over. Naruto had been in the middle of a conversation with Hinata when he was suddenly called over by Hiyashi. He walked over. "What's up?" "Naruto, this is Dr. Amato Sanzu. He's my new personal physician. He asked if he could run an examination on you as well." Naruto seemed skeptical. "I don't know. I promise I won't jab you with a needle," Amato said. "A completely painless examination," he promised, trying to reassure Naruto. Naruto let off a defeated smile. "Of course, Dr. Amato." Hiyashi and Naruto walked back inside with the doctor. "Is there any reason that you want to do this?" Naruto said as he sat down. Naruto was a bit of a hypochondriac. He could just read about a new disease in a book and start developing all the symptoms. So when a doctor mysteriously wanted to give him a checkup, the first thing that would come to his mind is serious terminal illness I just didn't notice yet. But Hiyashi assured him that everything was okay. "Dr. Amato just wants to check up on you. He was the personal doctor of both of your parents." Naruto's eyes lit up. "Really?" Amato smiled. "Yeah." "What can you tell me about them?" Naruto asked. Amato thought back. "Your parents were some of the happiest people I'd ever met. Your mother and father, despite their ages and positions within the village, both seemed quite immature. Well, not entirely immature. They carried a certain wisdom in them that told me that they knew what they were doing, but they still weren't above playing pranks on each other and on their friends. I was subject to many. Sounds like Naruto, Hiyashi said with a chuckle. Did you ever prank them back? Naruto asked with a smile wide with amazement and intrigue. Amato shook his head. No, pranks weren't in my personality. I was more of a serious type of man, something Minato and Kushina continuously told me I should loosen up on. I never did though. Are there any stories you can tell me about them? Naruto asked. Amato nodded. I can think of one. Back before you were born, when you were still growing in your mother's womb, she would often visit me to make sure you were okay. She always said something felt off. For a happy-go-lucky woman, your mother was quite the hypochondriac. It seemed like she was visiting me every week, which I didn't really mind. Being the closest thing to Surgeon General in the village, I don't often get the chance to help others as I'm generally too busy leading the other doctors and making sure all of our medical systems are unified. I would check her blood all the time just to make sure you and she were okay. She really loved you, even back before she knew you. Such a shame she didn't get to spend much time with you. The Ninetales escaped during pregnancy due to some malefactor who sought the power of the tailed beast. In the end, your father beat that man back, but he didn't stop the beast from escaping. Your mother died trying to protect you from it, as did your father, who sealed it away with himself at death. Getting it back was quite the feat for Hiruzen to pull off. Generally, what the Shinigami takes, it keeps, but Hiruzen, the sly devil, managed to take back the Ninetales. It makes me feel better to know that Minato isn't still inside that thing. I do hope he made it into heaven. Amato then saw the sad look upon Naruto's face and realized what he'd done. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you upset. Frankly, your parents would be proud to see the person you've grown into, Naruto. I know I am. Amato then proceeded to check Naruto's vision. He looked inside of it. It's true. You have the structure of every dojutsu in your eye. He looked through and saw the signs of all of the Sharingan's line of dojutsu, looking very carefully at one in particular. I've never seen so many dojutsu in one eye. It makes me wonder how they could all possibly fit in there. Amato turned his light off and returned it to his pocket. You look rather healthy to me. Tip-top shape. Whatever you're doing that's healthy, keep it up. It seems to be helping you quite a bit. Amato stood and put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and gave it a pat. He then walked over to Hiyashi and shook his hand. I'll be off now. I need to report back to the Hokage about everything in the physical. As far as I'm concerned, you should be free to begin training. Is there anything that can be provided to me to teach me the best way to master this power? Hiyashi asked. Amato thought about it. I'll give you the same advice that I give all of our Jinchuriki. The tailed beast in you is basically an animal. You've got to tame it, and taming it tends to be from defeating it in combat. How does one defeat the Ninetales in combat? Amato shrugged. That's why there are so few Ninetales Jinchuriki who can fully make use of its power. However, you are a Hyuga, so I'm sure you know the best way to deal with a monster that relies totally on chakra control. Hiyashi thought about it. Amato was right. All it would take was a little training. What I recommend you to do is to learn how to utilize various forms of Fuinjutsu. Sealing is a powerful technique against the Ninetales. It'll help you end a battle quickly if it's not going in your favor, and it'll further help you master the power if you manage to win. Hiyashi took this to heart. Thank you very much, Dr. Amato. No problem, Amato said. He then looked back at Naruto. I'll be looking forward to our next examination, Naruto. He then proceeded to leave the building. Naruto smiled. He seemed pretty excited about my dojutsu abilities. A lot of people tend to be, Hiyashi said. You've got eyes like nobody else. People will naturally wish to understand it. Naruto listened to what Hiyashi said. Despite that, he couldn't help but get an uneasy feeling now that the examination was over. Amato walked in darkness. In the distance was an orange flickering light. When he reached the end of the long corridor, he found a room that possessed a single man sitting in a chair. He wore an orange mask with a tiger stripe pattern on it. Tell me, does that boy have it? Amato nodded. I ran an examination on him. During the course of the examination, I looked into his eyes and saw the structure of a dojutsu above the Rinnegan. The structure was red like the Sharingan, possessed deactivated Tomoe at the moment, but had a similar shape to the Rinnegan. Good. That means it works then. Amato began to speak. I wasn't sure it would. When he was first born, he didn't display any of the structures for dojutsu. He must have developed them later in life. The DNA samples you provided me from that celestial being you spoke of were instrumental in making this happen. But my question is, why do you need me to do this? The masked man sat forward. The Rinne Sharingan is the most powerful dojutsu to ever exist. For some time, it was believed that the only way to awaken it was to absorb the power of the Ten Tails, as the Ten Tails was the only creature that possessed it. It was the only thing capable of casting the infinite Tsukiyomi. But now the Rinne Sharingan exists outside of the Ninetales. All that's required of me is to possess that eye, and I can make both of our dreams come true. I can bring the world peace, and you can finally see Akebi again. But for this to work, you must bring me the boy. Do you understand, Amato?" The man nodded. "I understand." Hiyashi was studying various forms of fuinjutsu. He had been doing this for quite some time. The Hyugas weren't strangers to sealing jutsu. They had their own fuinjutsu not too dissimilar from a curse mark. It was known as the curse mark of the caged bird, and any Hyuga family member who possessed a Byakugan without being a member of the main family was subject to it. It was from his experience in this that he began diving into as many curse marks and sealing formulas as he possibly could, studying everything he could get his hands on, down to even the ancient Uzumaki scrolls, something that one couldn't normally get a hold of without the Hokage's approval. He had been studying for months, practicing the techniques in various ways, and was now pretty sure he had a grasp on it. As he continued to practice these techniques, he was fairly certain that he could call upon them when he needed them most. All the while he did this, he knew that he was going to have a plan for actually defeating the Ninetales. Yeah, he could unseal it and reseal it, but the issue wasn't the sealing, but the capturing of power from the beast. Considering its penchant for never trusting its Jinchuriki, nor ever willingly sharing its power with them, the only option he had was subduing and theft of power. To that end, he began to study the biology of tailed beasts. He assumed that they possessed tenketsu. His greatest fear was that because the tailed beast was made of chakra itself, that it possessed no real tenketsu. But that being said, given the way tailed beasts generated into physical form after escaping Jinchuriki or being killed, they possessed a physical body structure, which meant they did indeed possess tenketsu. This was good, because that would be what he would use. The Ninetales was massive, and Hiyashi felt he'd be an idiot to face it down directly. What he needed to do was take something very strong down with minimal force. That's what the Gentle Fist was best at, so he decided that he would go with that. When Hiyashi was sure he was ready, he set a date and took a set of shinobi with him and left the village unannounced. Naruto was asked to be there just in case, along with Amato should anything happen. After going some distance away from the village so that nobody would be hurt if Hiyashi failed to control and reseal the beast, Hiyashi sat down in the field and crossed his legs. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Naruto asked. Hiyashi nodded. "I am certain. I need to learn how to utilize the Ninetales if I'm going to be any use to this village." Naruto seemed a bit nervous about the situation. Hiyashi smiled. "It's okay, Naruto. I'm going to make sure you don't have to face it again. You're just here as a failsafe." Naruto shook his head. I'm not afraid that I'll have to face the Ninetales again. I'm afraid you'll die. I don't want to lose you, Lord Hiyashi. I don't want to lose the only person I could ever see as a father." Hiyashi's heart began to melt as he felt tears form in his eyes. He pulled Naruto into a hug. "It's okay, Naruto. I won't die. I'm going to be just fine." After a moment, Hiyashi let Naruto go. He re-entered a meditative position and closed his eyes. He steadied his breathing and attempted to enter his subconscious. Once he had, he stood before the gate of the Ninetales. "Interesting. A non-Uzumaki desires to be my Jinchuriki. This has only ever happened one other time." Kurama's mouth turned up into an evil and nefarious grin. "It didn't end well." Hiyashi stood there, undaunted. "The Uzumaki possess powerful chakra reserves and are naturals with sealing jutsu, but do not underestimate the power of the Hyuga. Then by all means, try to conquer me. I'll show you why only the strong can even hold me, let alone utilize me." Hiyashi then smiled. "I'm going to redefine the word strong for you." Hiyashi rose into the air and peeled the tag from the cage. His eyes met Kurama's, and Kurama's met his. As they stood there staring at each other, they were sizing each other up. Despite Kurama's confidence, deep down he was trying not to underestimate him. All the while, Hiyashi, perceiving the emotional manipulation the Ninetales could exude and read, kept himself in check, offering nothing but overconfidence. Hiyashi had to give himself to overconfidence, even to the point of irrationality. He had to be intoxicated by his own power and self-image, because if he wasn't, he would give away just how truly terrified he was to be doing this. Hiyashi offered a smile, and Kurama, seeing it, offered one back. "You're either secretly very strong or very stupid. I suppose we'll find out which as soon as you open that seal." Hiyashi put his hand to the seal. "Anything further you'd like to say before we begin? If you wish to surrender your chakra willingly, now would be a good time. I might even craft a bigger cage for you, treats included." Kurama began to laugh. "Already trying to bribe your way out?" "No, I'm just giving you a fair chance not to get your ass kicked," Hiyashi said as he undid the seal. He immediately moved out of the way to allow the Ninetales room to escape. Hiyashi wasn't stupid. He knew he could never keep up with the Ninetales' own raw physical strength. And it was a good thing he did because the Ninetales exited aggressively. Hiyashi didn't know if Kurama possibly had knowledge of the techniques that he possessed, but what he did know is that it meant business, and he'd be an idiot to underestimate the Ninetales. As the beast came out, it swung its claws at Hiyashi, forcing the clan head to dodge left and right in an attempt not to get torn apart. Hiyashi was a little bit surprised by the beast's speed. For something with so much mass, he expected it to only be able to function slowly, but it seemed that the beast was light compared to other things that would be its size. That likely contributed to the speed of the beast. As he jumped about, Hiyashi activated his Byakugan and was pleased to note that the Ninetales did possess all the Tenketsu that he thought it would. This meant that he could subdue it if he could get close enough. Despite that, he was still currently on the defensive and didn't have enough time to switch over. The Ninetales, tired of this back and forth game of cat and mouse, formed a tailed beast ball in its mouth and launched it at the ground, causing a massive explosion that launched Hiyashi Hyuga back. He managed to lessen the damage done by utilizing his 8 trigrams palm rotation. Despite that barrier of chakra being created, the chakra of the beast itself seemed to overpower it. As he landed far away, he felt the burns on his body forming. Ow. That hurt, he said as he managed to get to his feet again. The Ninetales had been blown back a bit and was currently now getting up. It was willing to hurt itself just to hurt me. That's crazy, Hiyashi thought. I guess that proves it's taking me seriously. Hiyashi felt as if he used a good bit of chakra defending from that shot, and was currently doing the math to see if he had enough to still seal the Ninetales after a bit more battling. He was sure that he could still use the seal even after more of a fight, so he proceeded to run toward the distant beast. As his feet splashed through the thin layer of standing water just above the floor, the Ninetales prepared another tailed beast ball. It fired it at him, which he managed to dodge with the help of a shadow clone. Hiyashi mused how proud Naruto would be to see Hiyashi utilizing his special move. As he came closer, Hiyashi began calculating the best place to strike. The beast was covered in Tenketsu, but there was one that he knew he would only need to tap to put the beast out for a while. He needed to strike the Tenketsu that controlled everything. Chakra burned like a massive blue flame in the center of every being's body. It was from this well that chakra flowed out. If he could tap the Tenketsu at the center of this flame, he could stop it from flowing to the rest of the body in any way he desired. Best thing was that this Tenketsu was relatively unguarded by the current stance the Ninetales was taking. All Hiyashi had to do was make it past these attacks. If he could slide through the beast's defenses, the battle would basically be over. Hiyashi drew closer and continued to dodge the tailed beast balls with the help of his shadow clones. He would form a multitude of them to further confuse the beast and help defend him. Getting closer, the Ninetales lost track of the real Hiyashi and just started swiping. Little did he know that Hiyashi was coming up from the side with a second shadow clone following him. Once he got under the Ninetales, his clone assumed a position for a boost. Hiyashi ran at the clone and jumped into its cupped hand. As the clone pushed him up, Hiyashi pushed off the clone's hand. He fired up at the Ninetales' stomach and planted his fist right in the softest point where that Tenketsu was located. As soon as the strike landed, the Ninetales felt all of the wind leave its lungs as its solar plexus began to feel unusually cold. That cold, numb feeling radiated out to the farthest points of the Ninetales' body as it felt its vision dim and its balance going. It began to topple. Hiyashi ran out of the way as the beast fell on its side. It was out. Hiyashi then used his chakra to start pulling the chakra from the Ninetales, a feat that wasn't as difficult as it seemed due to the Ninetales no longer being conscious. Once he had pulled the chakra free, his body was set aflame by the orange glow of the Ninetales' chakra. He then began to weave hand signs, calling in the new sealing method. As torii gates fell from the sky, the Ninetales was locked up once again, resealed. Once that was done, Hiyashi left his subconscious. He was still sitting out in the field. Everyone around him was watching carefully. "Lord Hiyashi," Yamato asked, "are you all right?" Hiyashi smiled and offered a slight nod of the head. "I have successfully controlled the Ninetales and resealed it. Its power is mine now." Naruto ran over and hugged him. "See, I told you it'd be all right," Hiyashi said. "I think we should do a quick once-over before we get back to the village," Yamato said. "We want to make sure that everything is in the best possible shape before we return." Hiyashi agreed and subjected himself to the physical. Once everything was confirmed to be okay, they headed back to the Hyuga clan compound. That night, after celebration, Naruto headed back to his apartment to rest. Getting there, he unlocked the door and stepped in. Once inside, he stretched and yawned. It was getting late and he was getting sleepy, so he began the process of readying for bed. But before he got into bed, he heard a knock at the door. "Who could it be at this hour?" Naruto asked. He peeped out the peephole and saw Amato standing there. "Huh. What's Amato doing here?" He opened the door. "Dr. Amato, what are you here for?" "It's urgent. Can I come inside?" Of course, Naruto said as he opened the door and closed it behind him. What is it that you need to talk to me about? Suddenly, Amato pushed a cloth to Naruto's face. Naruto tripped, fell backwards, and hit the wall. He tried to get up, but it was chloroform. He was breathing in the fumes and losing consciousness. No, please, When Naruto was down, Amato put the cloth away. He seemed very upset about this. Lifting him up over his shoulder, Amato opened the door again and began to make his way out of the village. Naruto was unconscious for the most part. He only woke up when he was laid down in a cage. He awakened only for a moment to see Amato and a man wearing a strange tiger stripe mask. Naruto recognized the man as soon as he saw him. You're the man who... Naruto passed out again. The next day, Hiyashi was outside tending to his garden when suddenly Yamato showed up. Lord Hiyashi, Lord Third would like to speak with you. It's urgent. Hiyashi would be taken to the Hokage's office where Hiruzen would be waiting for him. What is it, Lord Hiruzen? Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen looked over. It's Naruto. I wanted to know if you had any idea about his location. Hiyashi shook his head. I heard he went home last night. Did he not get there safely? Hiruzen shook his head. He did, but when I went this morning to present him his monthly allowance, the door was unlocked. Inside, I saw signs of a struggle. I think someone's taken Naruto. Hiyashi thought about this and nodded. I don't know where he is. We're mounting a search. Is there any way I can help? Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen nodded. Feel free to do whatever you want to help. As Hiyashi began to head home, he thought about everything he had been told. Someone kidnapped Naruto in the night. Why? He wasn't the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Since Hiyashi had captured the Nine-Tails, word had traveled far and wide that Naruto was never the Jinchuriki, and that instead it was Hiyashi. This shocked a lot of people. Either someone didn't get the memo, or there was something else that... Hiyashi then realized. His Dojutsu! They want his Dojutsu! That's when he remembered a request Naruto had made. I have to hurry. Hiyashi then went back to the Hyuga clan compound to gather his forces to help track Naruto. Naruto's eyes opened again. Where am I? He found himself tied to a chair in the middle of a room. Torches were lit, and before him was a masked man, along with Amato. Amato, what's going on here? You know who this man is, don't you? He's the masked man who killed my parents. What are you doing throwing in with him? Amato looked away as the masked man began to speak. He's always been on my side, Naruto. Since before you were even born. Naruto was confused. I don't understand. The masked man continued. Have you ever wondered about your Dojutsu? Naruto was confused. What are you talking about? Amato, what's he talking about? Your Dojutsu, the man mask continued, was devised by me. You have no natural Uchiha or Hyuga blood in you. It was all Amato and his genetic experimentation. While you were still developing inside of your mother, he began to add the DNA of a celestial being we discovered to your system. Naruto looked over. Amato, all those times that my mother came to you, feeling that something wasn't right, and you kept giving her shots. That was... I'm sorry, Amato said. I didn't wish to betray the Leaf, the Hokage, your mother, or you. It's just... Why? Naruto demanded. Amato looked back. My daughter. Naruto was confused. Your daughter? Amato nodded. My daughter was sick. Very sick. I began searching for a way to cure her through gene therapy, but when no other options presented themselves, I considered cloning her body. Something went wrong though, and the clone wasn't viable. I ran out of options and she ran out of time. She died. I was destroyed. I was then approached by this man, who said that he could bring her back to me if I were to give him a Rinne Sharingan. To do that though, I needed to develop it in someone with a strong enough chakra well to hold it. Someone compatible with the DNA. That was you. I'm very sorry, Naruto. Please, forgive me. I promise we won't kill you. We just need to take your eyes. That's all. You won't even miss them, because when the infinite Tsukiyomi is cast, you'll be put into a dream like everyone else. A dream where everything is perfect. The infinite Tsukiyomi, Naruto questioned. That's a dangerous genjutsu. That nearly ended the world once. Do you really want that? You want to be responsible for ending the world? No, Amato shouted at him. I don't. But I can't live in a world where my daughter doesn't exist. And you won't have to, my friend, the masked man said. Now that I have the Rinne Sharingan, I can return to life everyone we lost. Naruto let out a sigh. I'm sorry, but you're both about to be disappointed, Naruto said. The masked man and Amato looked at him curiously. Naruto looked up. I already knew this would happen. Amato was shocked. You knew? Naruto nodded. I saw this coming a while ago. Back when you examined my eyes. I didn't tell anyone because I couldn't believe it myself, that Amato would do this to us. And now as I listen to him, I can't entirely blame you. You're a desperate man who's lost everything. But I regret to inform you that while I didn't believe it would happen, I took precautions for this. Naruto raised his head and whipped his hair back, displaying underneath a curse mark. The curse mark of the caged bird. Amato was in shock. "No, how could you do this to us?" Naruto sighed. "Hiyashi once told me that my dojutsu was special, and that people would come for it, and that the best I could do was deter people from taking it by adding this seal. At that time, I refused, but after having that vision with the Rinnegan, I couldn't help but choose it." Amato fell to his knees. It's over," he said. The masked man looked over. "It's not over yet, Amato. Perhaps we can't take his dojutsu from him now, but we can force him to use it for us." Amato looked up. "Huh?" The masked man looked at Naruto and removed his mask to display a Mangekyo Sharingan and a Rinnegan of his own. With but a glance, he cast Naruto under Genjutsu. "Now all we must do is wait for nightfall. Then the infinite Tsukiyomi will be cast." As they prepared for the moon to rise, the Zetsu guards that were standing about came to inform their masters about the incoming army of Konoha Nin. "What's going on?" Obito asked. "We've been discovered," the white Zetsu said. As Hiyashi drew closer, he was glad that Naruto had finally consented to the caged bird seal. Not only was his specifically designed to keep his dojutsu safe, but it was also designed to allow Hiyashi to track them. When Hiyashi remembered this, he returned to Hiruzen and informed him. Now an army had been amassed, and they were marching on the location of Naruto's curse mark. When they got there, they saw an army of Zetsu waiting for them. Hiyashi, wearing full battle armor, was in charge of the forward lines due to his superior firepower as well as his wisdom that only came with age. Pointing toward the army, he shouted, "Forward!" and they marched. Frankly, the fact that they could get an army like this was only due in small part to Sasuke, who explained to Hiruzen about what Naruto possessed, as well as what the stone tablet Naruto had decoded had said. Realizing how important this was, they scrambled to battle. And now, as they ran toward the enemy, the only thing on Hiyashi's mind was the only thing that had ever been on his mind since the whole situation had started: rescue Naruto. Activating his Nine-Tails chakra mode, Hiyashi engaged with the Zetsu. He blitzed through them with his strength. With the chakra sense of the Nine-Tails that could detect emotions as well, mixed with his Byakugan, Hiyashi had to be one of the most informed warriors on the battlefield. He had knowledge of how many warriors there were on both sides, as well as enough information to start formulating strategies on the fly. As the Zetsu tried to surround and cut him off, he knew from what direction every attack was coming. Mixing the ability to fire off chakra from every tenketsu with the power of the Nine-Tails, Hiyashi formed spikes on his body that extended out in every direction, stabbing through each Zetsu's body. Hiyashi looked like a porcupine as he moved through the battlefield. As he moved in, he struck a Zetsu's tenketsu with his gentle fist techniques. Surrounded once again, Hiyashi spoke. "You guys never learn." He sunk into a lower position. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Hiyashi began to perform the technique, but due to the fact that he could create a multitude of arms out of the Nine-Tails chakra, he was not only able to lengthen the range of this attack, but was able to utilize it on more than a single opponent. Despite how much chakra Hiyashi was expending, he felt like this was but the surface of the surface. He felt like he could do so much more. He was almost sure that he alone could take out the whole army. But despite that, he knew why he was here and what he needed to do. Realizing the precipice of stone where Obito and Amato were standing, Hiyashi spoke. "Amato, I trusted you. We all trusted you. How could you do this to us?" Amato looked away in shame. Obito faced Hiyashi. "Interesting. I never realized just how powerful a Hyuga with the Nine-Tails could really be. But you're not going to be any match for the power of the Rinnegan." Obito drew closer and attempted to use the Diva Path to push Hiyashi back. As he did, Hiyashi noticed Amato's face. "Why would you do this, Amato?" Hiyashi asked. "For my daughter. I need to see her again." "But is this what your daughter would want? Will you ever be able to look her in the eye again?" Obito struck Hiyashi with the gunbai. Hiyashi jumped off the wall and attempted to strike back, but Obito activated his Kamui to become intangible. He then used the Ashura Path to grab Hiyashi with an extended hand, like a whip, and fling him back against the wall. Amato thought deeply about what Akebi would want. Akebi, what am I supposed to do?" As Hiyashi laid against the wall, he saw Obito drawing closer. How was he supposed to fight this? Obito hit very hard thanks to the Rinnegan, and due to his intangibility, Hiyashi couldn't even touch him. Obito stopped just in front of him. "You know, not long ago I had planned to take the tailed beasts. The reason I attacked the village all those years ago was just in case the plan with Naruto didn't work out. If I couldn't have the Rinne Sharingan right out the gate, I would have it with just a little grinding. Unfortunate for you, it did work." He kicked Hiyashi in the face. Hiyashi lost his transformation. Obito scoffed. "Look at you. They used to say that the tailed beasts were the measuring stick by which we measured strength. The tailed beast's strength was supposed to be absolute. But here we stand. Or should I say, here I stand. And here you fall." Obito raised his gunbai to finish off Hiyashi. It was then that there was a cry from behind. "No!" Suddenly, a chakra rod passed through Obito's throat. Obito fell to his knees, gurgling. He turned around to see Naruto sitting up, his Kokugan activated. He then remembered Hiyashi, but before he could look back, Hiyashi grabbed the chakra rod and jerked it, snapping Obito's neck. Obito fell to the ground, dead. Hiyashi stood and began to walk toward Naruto, who ran as fast as he could. He jumped into Hiyashi's arms. "I'm so glad you're safe," Hiyashi said. He then looked over at Amato. "Why did you help us?" he asked. "You could have had everything you wanted." Amato looked at Hiyashi in shame. "I didn't think Akebi would be very proud of me if I let my grief ruin the world she loved just so I could imagine her with me again." Amato sat down. I couldn't handle it anymore. To be a doctor, a specialist in the field of medicine where your own child is sick, having become a doctor just to heal her. Then for her to die, and there's nothing you could do." Amato sighed as tears began to roll down his cheeks. Hiyashi knelt down beside him. "I understand, Amato. I have 2 daughters of my own, and I would do anything I could for them. But there are some things we cannot do. There is a domain. There is a domain that no mortal can cross. Life and death may be manipulated by humans wrongly, but it truly is in the realm of God. And sometimes the best thing we can do is commit our child to his arms. The pain we feel is immense, but it won't last forever. In the meantime, Amato, you shouldn't focus on losing your daughter. You should focus on saving the children of others. It's why you're still a doctor, isn't it?" Amato nodded. Hiyashi smiled. "And you proved that today. Despite how hard it was, you chose others over yourself. And that's the mentality that sets apart the good doctors from the great ones." And with that, the battle came to an end. The Zetsu were defeated and Amato was taken into custody. Despite his intentions, he still had broken the law and was sentenced to serve out a lengthy prison sentence. However, under the recommendation of Hiyashi, Amato was allowed to continue serving as a doctor to the other prisoners. And as for Naruto, well, Naruto had received a note. It said, "Please come to the Hyuga clan compound as soon as possible." Fearing the worst, Naruto got his gear on and began to make his way out to the compound. As he reached the gates, he ran in and slowed to a stop when he saw all of the Hyuga standing outside. They all smiled at him and stood silently, as if guarding a path forward. Naruto began to walk forward. At the end of that path was Hiyashi, Hinata, Hanabi, and Neji. They were dressed ceremoniously and smiling. Naruto drew closer to Hiyashi. When he was close enough, Naruto whispered, "What's happening?" Hiyashi put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. "We're celebrating." "Celebrating what?" Naruto asked. Hiyashi's smile widened a little. "You." Naruto was confused. "Me?" Hiyashi spoke. "Naruto, in these months that I've known you, you've changed my life for the better in a way that only my daughters and Neji have. I almost lost you. Amato taught me how important it is to hold on to family while you still have them, because you never know what could happen, or when they might be gone. That's why I got approval from Hiruzen." Hiyashi knelt down to Naruto's level. "Naruto, I want to adopt you." Naruto's eyes widened. "Adopt?" Hiyashi nodded. "If you'll have me." Hiyashi looked away. "I know it's sudden, but I feel like I need to keep you close. You're a son to me, and I don't want to see you alone." Naruto fell into his embrace. Trembling and crying, he nodded his head vigorously. Yes, please, I want to be a part of your family." Hiyashi smiled. Now, before you think Hiyashi's cold-hearted, don't. Sasuke also had nowhere to go, and Hiyashi had also grown close to him during the time it took to train Naruto. Sasuke was free to live in the Hyuga clan compound as well. He was apprehensive at first, because he once had a family and a clan, and lost it. But Hiyashi convinced him to let go of hatred and give love one more chance. And now, they were all together. They celebrated, all sat at a table ready to enjoy a full banquet. Hiyashi stood and held up his cup. "To family!" And that's the end of this story. I hope the ending was everything you all envisioned it to be. I'd been thinking for a while how to properly explain Naruto having every dojutsu, and I felt that the only way for him to have it was to be in some way connected with Shibai. Amato's character in the Boruto series has always been mysterious to me. While I theorize a lot of things about his identity and true purpose, I can also admit that it's very possible that he's simply just a grieving father who misses their child. If you're watching this in the future and it turns out to be something different, sorry, but this was made in December 2024, before whatever reveal you're talking about. I just wanted to represent that perspective here a little bit. Not just the insane powers that the characters have developed, but the bonds they forged along the way. And in the end, isn't that what Naruto's all about? Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a comment below and tell us what you thought, things you might have liked different, or video ideas for the future. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when more videos like this one drop, and while you wait for those, try out one or both of these videos on your screen now. Until next time, peace out.